I still remember the exact moment I realized my family had abandoned my daughter in the woods. I was driving down that narrow, winding road, heart-pounding, and my stomach twisted into knots because something felt horribly wrong. When I got to the trailhead, the last place anyone should leave a child alone, my worst fears were confirmed. Her favorite pink jacket was gone, and the footprints led deep into the dense forest. A place that locals always warned me about. Wolves lived there, and they were known to be aggressive. My mind raced as panic set in. How could they do this? How could my own sister and brother-in-law, the people I trusted with my life and the safety of my child, just leave her there? Was I wrong for letting my daughter even be around them unsupervised? Would you have done the same if your family pulled something like this on you? I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I needed to find her before something unthinkable happened. It all started a few weeks ago, when I agreed to spend a weekend with my extended family at their cabin up in the mountains. I had my daughter with me, my 5-year-old little girl who had the brightest smile and the most infectious laugh you could imagine. My parents had passed away a few years ago, and my sister had always been a little competitive with me, especially about parenting. She would constantly hint that I wasn't strict enough, that I spoiled my daughter, that I wasn't raising her the right way. I tried to shrug it off, thinking it was just jealousy or overprotectiveness. But that weekend, everything took a dark turn. From the moment we arrived, something felt off. My sister and her husband greeted us with what seemed like exaggerated warmth. There were hugs, smiles, and laughter, but beneath it all, I could sense tension. They were constantly making little comments about my parenting, like I didn't supervise my daughter enough or that she needed to learn survival skills by spending time alone outdoors. At first, I brushed it off as harmless teasing, but as the day went on, their comments started to feel like thinly veiled threats. They kept talking about the woods behind their cabin, how kids need to toughen up, and nature can be harsh. I didn't think much of it at the time, because I assumed they were just joking. I didn't realize how literal they were being until that night. That evening, after dinner, my daughter had asked if she could explore the woods for a little while. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I trusted my sister, thinking she would keep an eye on her. I was exhausted from work and just wanted to relax for a bit. My sister assured me she would watch her, and I reluctantly agreed. I remember tucking my daughter into her tiny sleeping bag, then glancing out the window as she ran off hand in hand with my sister and niece, laughing and skipping among the trees. It felt innocent, normal even, but that was the last time I saw her voluntarily. A couple of hours later, I noticed the quiet in the cabin had changed. My daughter's laughter wasn't echoing through the windows anymore, and my sister's voice was strangely distant. I asked if everything was okay, and they just smiled, saying she was fine and that she was learning about nature. But something about their expressions didn't sit right. I tried to ignore it at first, convincing myself I was overreacting, but when I went outside to check on her, she was nowhere to be found. I called her name, my voice breaking as the night air carried it away. I ran back inside, demanding answers, and that's when my sister and her husband froze. They exchanged a glance, the kind that makes your stomach drop, and my heart sank. They told me she was exploring further into the woods and that she'd be fine. But there was hesitation in their eyes, a hesitation that screamed. They knew more than they were telling me. I didn't want to panic, but my instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong. I grabbed a flashlight and ran into the forest, calling my daughter's name over and over. The trees were thick, the underbrush snagging at my clothes and tearing at my skin, but I didn't care. I could hear the distant howl of wolves, and fear surged through me like fire. I kept thinking about all the warnings I had heard about this area, about the predators that roamed these woods, and every second that passed felt like an eternity. I stumbled over roots, tripped over rocks, and my flashlight flickered dangerously, casting long, sinister shadows across the twisted trees. I shouted her name until my throat burned, until I felt like I might collapse from exhaustion. And then, finally, I heard it. A faint, tiny cry. It was my daughter. My heart leapt, and I sprinted toward the sound, tears blurring my vision. When I finally reached her, I couldn't believe my eyes. She was sitting on the ground, terrified, hugging herself, eyes wide and filled with tears. The woods around her were dark and silent, except for the occasional snap of a twig and the eerie echo of wolves in the distance. "Mommy," she screamed, and I scooped her up, holding her as tightly as I could. "Why did you leave me here?" she asked, trembling. I tried to reassure her, telling her she was safe now, but she shook her head, scared and confused. It was at that moment that the reality hit me. My family had deliberately abandoned her. I dragged her back to the cabin as fast as I could, my mind spinning with anger and disbelief. When I confronted my sister, she laughed, a chilling sound that made my blood run cold. She said it was a lesson, that my daughter needed to learn independence and face the real world. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I yelled, I screamed, I told them they were monsters, but they didn't seem to care. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking as I packed up our things and left that cursed cabin for good. On the drive home, I held my daughter close, promising her that nothing like that would ever happen again. I vowed to protect her no matter what, even if it meant cutting off the people I once called family. Even now, weeks later, I'm still haunted by what happened. I replay the moment over and over in my head, the panic, the fear, the sound of those distant wolves, and my daughter's tiny, frightened cries. I think about what could have happened if I hadn't acted quickly. Would she have been okay? Would someone have found her in time? The thought makes me sick to my stomach, and the worst part is knowing that the people who were supposed to love her, who were supposed to keep her safe, actually intended to put her in harm's way. It's a betrayal I can't even begin to describe. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I had to decide whether I would confront them directly or simply cut them out of our lives completely. But before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone back and confronted them, risking another encounter with their cruelty? Or would you have chosen to protect your child and never look back? I want to hear what you think, because at that moment, every choice felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. I ended up confronting them, but not in the way they expected. I recorded everything, every word, every threat, every laugh, every cruel justification for what they did. I called the authorities and made sure there was a paper trail. I told them that if they ever tried anything like that again, there would be consequences. I refused to give them another chance to manipulate or harm my daughter. They tried to play it off, to twist the story, but I was ready. I had witnesses, recordings, and my own unwavering determination to make sure they could never do this again. Seeing the fear in their eyes finally gave me a strange sense of justice, not revenge for revenge's sake, but a moment of clarity where I knew my daughter and I were safe from them. The aftermath wasn't easy. I had to deal with family drama, with guilt, with therapy sessions for my daughter to help her process the fear and confusion she endured. But slowly, things began to settle. My daughter started sleeping through the night again, her laughter slowly returning. We built new routines, ones that reinforced trust, love, and safety. I became more vigilant, more protective, but also more appreciative of the bond we share. That terrifying experience, as painful as it was, reminded me how fragile life can be and how quickly it can be disrupted by those you thought you could trust. Looking back now, I've realized that family isn't always defined by blood. It's defined by care, protection, and respect. The people who abandoned my daughter in the woods were never truly family, no matter what our DNA says. And I've made peace with cutting them out of our lives completely. I've learned to rely on my instincts, to trust my judgment, and to never, ever let anyone put my child in danger again. Every time I see her smile, hear her laugh, or watch her play, I'm reminded of why I had to fight so hard, why I had to act decisively, and why I'll always protect her, no matter the cost. So if you've made it this far, I want you to take a moment and think about the people in your life who truly has your back, who would protect you and your loved ones no matter what, and most importantly, who wouldn't. If you were on my side in this story, hit that like button. If you want more stories like this heart-wrenching, shocking, and deeply personal, subscribe to the channel. And share your thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I want to know what you would have done if you were faced with a situation like mine. Thank you for listening, for caring, and for understanding the lengths a parent will go to protect their child. I'll see you all in the next story.